What's up guys, Barry Gaming here, back with some more AFK Journey, and today we're going to be going over something a little bit different. Not quite an overall tier list of how heroes are performing, but more or less a priority tier list on what heroes you should be focusing on building right now in the Song of Strife season. If you're not in Song of Strife, this probably isn't as relevant for you. Once you do get to it after the 42-day mark on your account, this will become a little bit more valid and more important. We're basically going to be ranking them based on who are the best right now as we're leading up to the endless modes in all these dream realms, getting to the end game modes, getting all these different game modes unlocked. And there's certain heroes that are must-have heroes in this list. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, especially if you've had really good experiences with some of these heroes, maybe not in the traditional teams. Let's get into it. All right, let's go through these heroes. A couple of them we're gonna try to work our way down from the top. Hands down, I feel like there is just one solution pretty much for every question right now, and that is kind of Odie. Odie has just been one of the strongest heroes, continuing to be an absolutely strong hero and just getting better and better. If you're not going with Odie, then I don't know what's going on. He's the best PvE damage dealer. He's also one of the best boss damage dealers. His executability when he gets to Mythic Plus is just unstoppable, and he's pretty much one of those must-have. Another very much must-have hero is Coco. I don't know why their images are so dark on here. I do apologize, but Coco is essentially used everywhere, and even in Dream Realm right now, used in almost every single boss, because, well, we can't use those perfect teams just yet like we had in Endless Battle previously before the Song of Strife season. You need her defensive abilities, and especially once you get her to Mythic Plus, once that damage reduction from her ultimate wears off, you get a gigantic shield, which insanely increases the survivability of this hero and just makes her absolutely amazing. If you care about pushing AFK stages, if you care about PvP, Arden is your old man. He has some insane crowd control, really good AoE damage, and is just one of those kind of must-have heroes pretty much for every single game mode that he's in. These three at the very top are essentially going to help you in so many different game modes. Granted, Arden will not be so much for, you know, like the end game and stuff like that when we're talking about bossing, but when we're talking about AFK battles, story battles, all the other PvP game modes, he's just pretty much best in slot. And kind of up there with him is Damien. Damien was one of those support heroes that does amazing in giving his team haste, having crowd control, having AoE healing, not even being on the battlefield, so you don't have to worry if he's surviving any hits. I would consider maybe pushing him down to the A tier compared to these, but again, he is way up there, and I'm gonna try to make it anybody on the left side of this list over here are the more higher priority within their tier. Those right there are hands down some of the most important to rank up. However, there's two that are going to be very close to the top, which potentially might go to S tier once we get to the later game of the Song of Strife, and that is Merrily and that is Corrin. These two do true damage, and because of the way the bosses in the early game, I say early game because even in the early Song of Strife game, true damage isn't as impactful as, say, magic damage, and that's why Odie is like staying on top, reigning supreme as the best one out there. Whereas Merrily and Corrin, you still want to try to build them up to Mythic Plus. They are still very good damage dealers. However, they're really not used anywhere else besides Dream Realm, and if other heroes are doing better at Dream Realm, well, that does not bode well for them, so just keep that in mind. Besides that, as far as like mandatory heroes to build, the only other one that I would potentially put up here, but again, is another one of those situations where I kind of want to bump her down to a B tier, is because a lot of people use Antandra as their main tank, especially if they're running the Antandra, Smokey, Coco, Cecia, Rowan type team. You're definitely still want to prioritize her. You don't want to go with other hero builds just yet because, well, they're just not really that important. So as far as the core of the A level units, I feel like that is pretty much it. Everybody else we're going to talk about are going to have some specific niche uses, whatever their PvP, bossing, whatever. One of them I'm actually going to be putting up the top here with Antandra. Yeah, Citrana. The ability for her season to give additional magic damage taken to enemies And since Odie is so good, if you can get her built and used in things like Dream Realm, she can extremely buff the damage that you're doing. Is she really necessary? Probably not overall. I'd say she's a very niche use here, but that's kind of what B tier is. S tier is like you gotta build them. A tier is essentially, yeah, they're still really, really good and strong. B tier is like, depending on what your account looks like, these heroes can be good. Seth is another option. Seth can do pretty much everything well. He has a ton of life drain, and he is part of one of those PvP teams tandem with Shakir that can counter the typical Arden, Carolina, Aaron type team. So that is something to kind of consider. Beyond that, not as much use, but we do have some other heroes like Lucius that got a pretty sizable buff considering their season skill as well. Anybody who got a support role like Lucius, that's like a tank slash healer slash like shielder support hero, tank hero, really kind of fits so many bills, and the season ability giving him additional support to your account is really, really strong. I think those are hands down some of the most important things to have. I'd almost say like bumping them up might be good. In reality, I think the list should probably look a little bit more like this, with only one other hero, in my opinion, really bumping up in the B tier, and that is going to be Sylvina. And that is mainly because she is a very good counter to anybody who has a Vala PvP team. Outside of that, she still can have some good uses in like AFK battles and such. But again, remember, B tier is more niche uses, which I actually might take the time and rename these a little bit just so it's a little bit more clear for you. So I decided to give them a little bit better titles here. Must build heroes, very strong, niche uses, and then we kind of move to some usefulness here. Kruger, while he still has a few battles he's really, really good in, he's not as useful, mainly because of the new artifacts that came out. Still very strong hero overall if you want a support hero that can also potentially tank some of these Dream Realm bosses and stuff like that. Still pretty solid, has some uses. Another hero that's very much like that, Niru, giving a hero a chance, or basically a revive at 50% power. Still not that bad. We have some other heroes that do really well with Aaron type combinations. We have like really good AoE damage dealers. There are some others that do have some niche uses, like a Ken if you're looking for heroes to buff. If you're looking for some sort of assassin, you know, that can kind of work well with a Sylvina type team. And then beyond that, at least I haven't found any uses for really any of these heroes down at the bottom. They're just still pretty much useless. Even Mirelle, kind of throwing her down there. I've just not had very good experiences with any of them, and this is where I'd love to hear if you guys have had any really surprisingly good uses for anybody in the C or D tiers. Leave a comment down below, let people read it, let them see exactly what you are doing with that hero that's making them worthwhile. But again, most of these heroes down in the C tier and D tier, and even some of the B tier, are not ones you should prioritize until you essentially have all the ones at the top to, at the very least, Mythic plus, if not Supreme plus. So again, S tier, A tier, those are the ones you need to really prioritize getting built up. Everybody else is like they have one or two game modes where they could be very niche and have a use for you and might help you out. If you want me to do this for S levels as well, I will. We're still kind of waiting for better information as far as the end game goes, which is why I don't really want to talk about S levels too much just yet, because we are more of the mid game, early game of Song of Strife, and things will definitely change. Whereas A levels, they're a little bit easier to build overall over time because of Dream Realm and the Dream Realm store, and it's much easier getting A level shards and such. So consider this a good platform to work off of. Again, we might see heroes like Corrin and Merrily jump up to the very top when it comes to later in the season when we get to endless bosses, but for the time being, Coco, Odie, those are your main priorities in my opinion. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time.